And this is how I define trigger. It's an unexpected stimulus from the outside, and you have access to a story that you associated with the trigger. So that's one use of the word. There's another use, like being in a triggered state, which I call some kind of unconscious survival reaction. And so we might go into these modes of fight or flight, or freeze. And then in the series, we talk also about appeasement, which is, just going with whatever is being asked. So this slide I borrowed from Sarah Payton, and so this whole thing's inspired by it. So something happens. So this trigger bullet, using the metaphor of a bullet coming at you. So this is the trigger. And there's a story that's associated with the trigger. And then thirdly, there's a reaction that we have. So in this workshop, you'll have a chance to identify the story that's associated with your trigger. So we're going to go into a guided embodied self-empathy practice that it's based on Inbel Kashtan, another NVC trainer, who's no longer with us, but she's left a huge legacy. Like the NVC Tree of Life was also Inbal's. And so we're lucky that she gave us all these things. So I'm going to invite you to basically get comfortable. And this is the chance, the invitation for you actually to turn off your camera, because we're going to do kind of an inward practice. So get comfortable and identify a trigger. We're looking for something like level 6 out of 10 or less. You don't want to work with your most triggering life situation here. So I'm going to give you, like 30 seconds or so to identify a trigger in your life that you'd like to work with. Right. So if you were in the same room, I'd be able to look around and kind of notice if everyone is done. But I'm going to assume that you have something to work with. And notice the sensation in your body. Do a body scan, kind of like what we did before. Notice the sensation in your body. And follow that sensation. Locate the sensation in your body and place your hand in the areas where you're feeling that sensation. So it might be on your chest or in your shoulders. And I invite you to say hello to that sensation. Stay with that feeling, that sensation, inviting it in, like befriending it. Don't push it away. Actually notice it and welcome it in. Welcome the feeling, noticing the feelings that come up. And so now you definitely want to be standing up for this one and express through movement and sound what you're feeling and having with that sensation. So express through a movement of some sort definitely move your body in some way. And a sound out the feeling. You know, if it's pain, then you might express that however it is for you. If you haven't fully identified with that feeling, just express it through movement, express it through sound until you have integrated that feeling. So hopefully you're moving in the room and expressing it in whatever way comes naturally to you. And it may not make sense. It may not be words. It might just be grunts or howling or even yelling. So verbally, name the feeling that you're experiencing. So verbally express out, you know, your feeling. It might be, you know, anger, rage, annoyance, whatever it is that's coming up for you, name it. And there may not be a distinct word that comes up. Just name it in any way that feels natural. So explore with emotion, some kind of movement to represent the need that you are longing to have met and fulfilled, associated with that feeling. So express with your movement that might represent the need, like if you're longing for companionship, maybe you're embracing space, or if you're wanting, if you're wanting like transcendence, maybe you're opening up your arms to the sky. Or if you're wanting a sense of belonging, maybe you're caressing or embracing yourself, giving yourself a hug. So whatever that need is for you, express it with a movement. And it doesn't have to make sense. The important part is that you're actually moving. Now verbally, like put some words to that need that you're longing to have filled. And it may not be like that succinct list of needs that we had. Maybe you're just wanting to be closer to other humans, like to have a sense of companionship and belonging, whatever it is for you. Maybe it's justice. Maybe there's something about justice in your life that's wanting fulfillment. Maybe there's something around support. And allow yourself, after naming it verbally, allow yourself to mourn that need you were longing to have filled isn't fulfilled in this situation. So allow yourself to mourn. To feel what's true for you right now. And it might sound like sadness. There might be some tears that come out. Allow yourself to mourn the need that's not being fulfilled. Right. So invite you to slowly come back. We're going to rejoin the main room. Invite you to turn your video cameras back on once you're ready to join back in. And I'm going to wait for a few more video cameras to start back up. And yeah, I'd like to hear from one or two people on how that was for you in whatever way. And, you know, celebrations or mournings are welcome. You know, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes nothing happens. And go ahead and raise your hand if you would like to speak. And Matt, I see that your hand's up, and then Miranda. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I actually I found myself kind of struggling to relate to some of the questions, maybe because of the trigger that I chose, or whether or not it falls into what would be considered a trigger. But a trigger that I've always identified as something that triggers me is when I'm communicating with something and they share an idea that I've come to find as dangerous, that I've kind of told myself, this isn't a good idea for me. And frequently I find myself almost like feeling like I need to correct or to say, you know, my view in that perspective.
Okay.
And maybe one of the struggles that I'm having with the exercises and the reaching of the feelings that you were talking through is that what I want to be able to do is to react with less impulsivity in those situations, but I don't even necessarily know what the appropriate action is. And if the trigger relates,
thanks, Matt.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. So hearing that this particular exercise didn't resonate for you, it didn't like move you in a way that you were hoping to. Is that what I'm hearing?
I guess I want to understand more how to connect this to,
Sure.
or maybe understand what is a trigger that could fall into this kind of an exercise.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Matt. So you know, I'm definitely open to more Q&A like towards the end if you want to hang out for that. I see that there's a couple more hands that I also want to listen to. Miranda, how was the experience for you? And then Kate, please unmute yourself.
It was, I really like the last part because I do all of this, right? But I haven't quite allowed myself of like, okay, mourn it. Mourn that this need isn't being met. And it's like, that's the kind of that's how to come back to acceptance. So I felt like I gained a piece out of it. And my roommate's dog is right here with me. And while I was feeling, she like got up and was like licking me, and it was just funny to see her reaction to my emotion as well.
Thanks, Miranda. Kate, and then Molly.
Yeah, I feel like I've shared already today, and I want to give my airspace to someone else that's got their hands up.
Right.
I think
Right
Emily.
Yeah, Molly, and then Emily. Go ahead, Molly.
I found myself like holding myself back from fully going there. It could have been like what I chose, but I guess this kind of exercise is good to practice when you're actually triggered in the moment, maybe. But I'm wondering, like, when you can't thoroughly go there or thoroughly like mourn it because you're afraid to like go back to something that's specifically very triggering, like, what would you say this is more of a practice that will help as a band-aid when something really goes down, or this is just some practice that we need to like push ourselves into? Or
thanks for asking. As a practice, what we're doing, like, for instance, like in this workshop, you're invited to try something on, right? And we're asking you to recall something that happened in the past.
Mm.
And as a practice, you know, we're trying something new that may or may not work for you. Like sometimes it doesn't work, but as a practice, you want to be able to recall it like in the moment as well.
Mhm.
So it's sort of like the practice is inviting certain aspects for you to try on, certain ways of looking at the problem, and hopefully it has value for you, and so that you take some of the pieces in here that you might apply later on.
Right.
So that's kind of what actually what this whole series is all about, right? Is we're inviting you to try on some practices, and some of them will resonate more than others for you. And hopefully there's, you know, there's different pieces in here that you might be able to take and use on your own. So that's kind of the intention. Does that make sense, Molly?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Okay, Emily, then Julio. And then I do want to move forward, but I see another hand in there. Emily, how was it for you?
Yeah, I'll go quickly. The words that come to mind are cathartic, clarifying, and also alchemy. So I found it to be pretty intense as an exercise, and I tried to choose a trigger that was a 6 out of 10. But it was helpful, and it helped me to like connect some dots, to be honest, in my mind. So I got a lot out of it in a short time period. So it made me excited to dive deeper.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Julio, and then Sarah, and then we'll move on.
Similar to what Miranda said, the morning period is something you hadn't done. And I even thought about what happens if this is never met, and what. So mourning that the need wasn't met, and then mourning that it may never be met, and I have to look, and I can look for it in other ways, is really powerful for me. So I really appreciate the exercise.
Yeah, thanks, Julio. And what I find particularly important about the practice, actually every step was important. The embodiment piece, you know, I used to live in my head, and so actually embodying some of this energy is super important. But identifying the need, like what's my longing? What's really in here that's longing for fulfillment, right? And to be able to put a word to that, I think it allows the mourning, the sadness, to be productive. So thanks for highlighting that, Julio. Mourning is really important. Sometimes we skip that and go straight to, hey, let's fix it, right? But mourning, you know, to actually allow yourself to mourn is super important. Thanks for highlighting that. Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I picked a situation that involved being misunderstood, and involving the body movements was helpful because it really kind of showed me like just that it was panic that I was feeling. And then what I was needing was like, you know, slowing down and like smoothing things out, or like, you know, calming down. So the movements really helped me with that process of understanding.
Thanks for highlighting that, Sarah. And I have found the embodiment piece to be essential to my practice, because I used to live in my head, and I think, at least for me, that's where the reactivity lives. So if I don't engage in the body, you know, there's sort of like, yeah, there's the rest of the life experience. Connecting with the body is like essential. So and movement, there's like a wisdom in there, I think, that's untapped a lot of times, and so moving in any way can release that wisdom. So thanks, Sarah, for highlighting that. Right, and I want to continue on our journey in this introductory workshop. Right, you know, we're trying on stuff that may or may not resonate, but as part of the practice, you're being invited to try on some things. So So now I'm gonna invite each one of you, I'm gonna give you about a minute to identify the story that you made up about what happened. So the story might be, I don't know, my story might be they're just really incompetent. They don't know what they're talking about. Or they're just evil, you know, there's or the story might be, gosh, this exercise is so stupid, you know. It might be, you know, whatever your story is, go ahead and identify it. And I'm going to give you about a minute to do that. Right. Anyone willing to share their story? You know, just like a sentence, a short summary of what it is that you were telling yourself about what happened. Marissa and then Kate. Go ahead, Marissa.
I found myself telling the story that I was being attacked and I was being proven wrong.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm being attacked and I'm being proven wrong. Perfect. Thanks, Marissa. Kate, I think you were next. Go ahead.
My story is that they're just avoidant and they don't really want to listen to what I have to say.
They're just avoidant and they don't want to listen to what I have to say. Thank you. That's perfect. Maureen and then Danielle, and then we'll move on. Go ahead,
Well,
Maureen.
my story is actually both of the last two statements. And somehow about it, I have to do what they say. That's kind of what I discovered.
I have
that
to
when
do what
somebody-
they say. That's perfect.
Yeah, they're angry and I have to do what they say. I have to appease them.
They're angry and I have to do what they say. Thank you. That's perfect. And Danielle, go ahead and then we'll move on.
My story is similar to the others as well, but I wrote down that this person is like a bad person, or that they only care about themselves, or like that they don't care about me. Is usually what my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. Perfect. So they don't care about me. They only care about themselves. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thanks for sharing those examples. And what we're wanting you to do is to summarize your story with one judgment, and just like the ones that we demonstrated in the group. And we want you to try on is to play that judgment over and over in your mind for about 30 seconds. They're totally insensitive. They don't care about what I want. Right? So whatever your judgment is, go ahead and repeat it over and over in your head. All right. So for those of you that were able to repeat your judgment over and over in your head, would you be willing to share how that was for you? To repeat your judgment over and over in your head. Maureen, and then Danielle, go ahead.
Well, I really see how I feel that they're bad because they are not willing to listen to me and they aren't willing to have a legitimate conversation. So I really make them bad.
Yeah. So as you repeated that in your head over and over, they're so bad. They're not willing to talk to me. They're so bad. They're not willing to talk to me. How did you feel? Like, how was that for you?
It just flamed my own anger.
Yeah. So you felt angry. Right on. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Danielle, are you willing to share? And then Sarah, go ahead, Danielle.
Same as Maureen, I think, for me. And then it's just pain. It's pain my needs are not being met, and I'm telling myself a story that makes the world very black and white. And then I think if I keep repeating it as well, it feels less real. I think the more I say it to myself, the more I have a hard time believing it. You know, what I mean by that is like, it's just not that simple. So it's like the illusion kind of falls. This is what my anger is, you know, I'm kind of projecting onto this person, that they don't care. But like, if I really repeat it to myself and I really think about it, I know that that's just not the whole story. I know that, yeah, and I think it's nice, like, because my first reaction is pain, and then if I have that awareness that, okay, this probably isn't the whole story, yeah, I come into from pain to compassion, and there is like a relief there. You know,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Danielle. So just to summarize what I think I heard is your initial reaction was pain. Yeah, yeah. And then, and as you kept going, you noticed a shift. Yeah, thanks. And we'll go into the shift a little bit more in a second. We'll get to it. All right. 2 more hands, Marissa and Melanie, and then we'll go to the final piece, which will hopefully bring us up back to life. I see you're unmuted, Melanie. Go ahead, and then Marissa.
Yeah, I loved what Danielle said. That was just, even put it and was articulated it better than for me, but it was like, yep, that's exactly what I felt like. First, I felt sad as I started it, but the more I said it over and over, I thought, that is so self-defeating. There's no benefit to that. It just got me into this sense of, again, it's not the whole story. It's not all of it. And yet it's what I repeat to myself, not over and over and over. But on occasions, like poor me, you know, they have no empathy, and anything I say doesn't make any difference, but saying it over and over and over again, it became self-defeating. And, you know, that's really not the whole story. That's not true.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. And there's something empowering about this, right? Because we're becoming aware of our judgment, and then we're giving it all the life that it can. You're repeating it over and over. And the first feeling, you know, like for you, was sadness. Is, you know, that's cool. You felt sad. And then something else happened, and hang on to that. We're going to go into that in a second. And Marissa, go ahead. And then I want to go to the final exercise. Marissa?
Sure. I just wanted to build off of, you know, what Danielle and they were saying, because for me, once it did start losing power and realize that that's not the whole story, I also noticed all of the other areas of my life that I tell myself that judgment, and how I had an aha moment of like, this is a very important insight for me to have just in my connections with everyone, not just that one situation.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So there's power in observing our judgments and repeating them over and over again. And I want to also give credit to Mary McKenzie, another trainer, NBC trainer. We'll go to Mary McKenzie's self-empathy practice. So now we're going to go back to that. So we're going to rewrite the judgment with the form, I love it when, and then we're going to insert a need, some kind of expression of our universal human needs into that sentence. All right, so I'm going to give you about a minute to go ahead and do that. All right, so now, is anyone struggling with creating their I love it when statement? If you're struggling with creating your I love it when statement, maybe I can help. But we want to basically put it in terms of I love it when, with some expression of our needs. All right, no seeing any hands for struggling. So go ahead and repeat, I love it when I'm able to fully express myself, or whatever your statement is. Go ahead and repeat it to yourself over and over again for about 30 seconds. All right, that's about 30 seconds. So for those of you that actually repeated your I love it when statement to yourself for at least 30 seconds, could you share how that was for you? Please raise your hand and share with the group. Maggie, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the same tears come up, not the same tears, but different tears of joy when I love it when every citizen's autonomy is valued by political leaders.
Mm,
I mean, that would just be so awesome.
yeah, so you're moved by that. Yeah, sense of justice. I love it when our leaders care about others. Thank you, Maggie. Dina, how was it for you?
Yeah, mine was I love it when I feel seen and held, and part of that is like my inner child feeling seen and held. I felt some like softening around my heart and my chest where there's a lot of reactivity and tension. So definitely appreciated that.
Thank you. And how did you feel afterwards after repeating that?
Yeah, a little less urgent, a little softer, a little more spaciousness, I guess.
Yeah.
Some possibility instead of fear.
Thank you, Dina. All right, Maureen, I see your hands up, and then we'll close out this part. Go ahead, Maureen.
Okay, I noticed that as I repeated the first sentence, something deeper happened and I felt more empowered to express myself. Like I think you said, there was more space. There was more space to fully see what was going on. And so it changed, it morphed. And it basically was, you know, that I was able to see what was really underneath all of what I was going through and what need and what want and what would be fulfilling, you know, for me. So that was really interesting that that evolved. There was an evolution in that statement for me.
Thanks, Maureen. Thanks for sharing. All right. So hoping that was a productive exercise. And I love it when it's like simple self-empathy. If you can reframe, you know, your story, your judgment, to reframe it in terms of your needs and repeat that to yourself. It's a simple self-empathy. So you can take that and keep that in your back pocket. And I thank Mary McKenzie, another trainer, for gifting me that. And typically when we connect with our needs, their strategies, you know, the requests manifest themselves almost like naturally, right? And so nonviolent communication invites you to formulate a clear, doable request based on what you just learned, right? And here's one of the most powerful statements that you can make that's empowering. Would I be willing to? And so that's the first step towards you know, getting your needs met out there in the world, is creating a request of yourself for some movement. And I find that having the willingness to make a request of myself is sometimes sufficient to shift the energy, right? So if you're like me, I have lots of things that I want to do in life. And so once I really express the true willingness to do something, I add that to my task list in life, and then I prioritize it, right? You know, if it's super important, then it's more likely to get done. But sometimes, you know, the priority isn't as high as some other things that I want to do. But that willingness is super important. All right, so so this is the end of our formal part. So if you like what we've done here, and you want to continue it, or even if you didn't like it but you're curious, I invite you to go ahead and register and join us in our 10-week series to learn more practices and strategies to free ourselves from reactivity.
Can you
So,
post a link to that?
Yeah. So Maggie, could you share the link to the chat for that? And we'll move into a closing round, and then I'll open it up into Q&A.